Today we got some news to tell. California inmates can now possess marijuana in their prison cells with one catch. Wonder what that catch is? Uh, my first impression on this is, as someone that doesn't, not me personally, but somebody that doesn't really know too much about the prison system, the inner workings, how corrupt everything is, you're like, well, this is kind of weird. How can they just have drugs and get away with it? Well, let's read this. Look at this picture of Cardi B's feet. It's disgusting. Anyways, California Appeals Court ruled this week inmates can legally possess marijuana in prison. They just can't do anything with it. Okay. Now there's a reason behind this, and it's a decent reason. It kind of goes with an initiative that's was pushed through and approved, recently. In the Third District Court of Appeals, 20-page ruling says the state's voters legalized recreational possession of less than an ounce of cannabis in 2016, with no exception, for even those behind bars. So basically decriminalize the possession of marijuana, period. Which in theory is a good thing because drugs, I don't know if drugs themselves should be legal or illegal. They should be, regulated. Some people just need to be self-medicated in certain ways. Some people even more strenuously than others. We don't have mental wards anymore, like anything like that. So people are basically, they don't have health care, so they're having to self-medicate. A lot of people with heroin and opiates. It's pretty bad. Let's keep going. The decision Tuesday overturned the Sacramento County convictions of 5 inmates who've been found with marijuana in their prison cells. Now, this gets down to why it's probably a good idea, I might say in here. According to the plan of the language, Proposition 64, we'll go ahead and read that real quick, actually. So, according to the plain language of Health and Safety Code Section 11362.1, enacted as part of Proposition 64, possession of less than an ounce of cannabis in prison is no longer a felony. Smoking or ingesting cannabis in prison remains a felony, and prison regulations forbid possession. Okay? The Attorney General uses arcane rules of statutory construction, twists the meaning of the words of the statute, urges us to disapprove cases directly on point, and makes whatever that's saying. Who knows, really? This goes on to say, smoking, ingesting it, that's still illegal. The panel rejected the state's argument that guards will lose control over prisons if inmates are free to possess small quantities of marijuana, noting possession can still be punished as a rule violation. Such punishments, said, could include having good behaviors revoked. Which I'll go down to this comment real quick. Oh no, a guy serving 10 years in prison won't have to serve an additional year or years in prison for having a joint and smoking the pot. Oh, the outrage. He will only be placed in segregation, lose privileges like visitation, phone, mail, not being allowed to work, etc., and will hurt his chance of being paroled or for being possession of the dope. Which is true. That's basically the recourse that'll be taken against, the fellas if they get caught with anything behind the wall. They'll get, their commissary taken away, their food privileges, basically. They'll be in segregation. But the crux of this whole situation, why they're doing this, is basically part of the Prison Reform Act. They're trying to make it so the prisons aren't, how people are always saying, oh, the population of, America's prisons are so high, y'all should do something about that. Well, this is one of the problems. And also, the bigger problem isn't the possession of marijuana in prisons. It's actually the marijuana getting into prisons. Now, I don't know if you know exactly how this happens. It's not all suitcasing it in, using your prison wallet, let's say. Mostly it's from the guards. These guards in a lot of areas of the country, they have the best paying job in the area, but it still doesn't, really make ends meet when you have kids, lease on a home, property, all that stuff. So they supplement their income by bringing in contraband. That's why a lot of prison guards now, they have to use clear bags, lunch boxes, things like that. they're scrutinized, and this is the reason, because drugs make their way into the prison system, and that's why there's a lot of violence, because these guys, they get in contact with the guard, buddy buddy with them on the inside, whatever the communication is, and they basically establish a relationship, and that's one of the terms in prison that you can get a DR, disciplinary report for, is establishing a relationship, because in that sort of setting, relationship, if you don't know, is psychological, so you can almost skew it for power, or there be money, which money is a great a great thing to have over somebody, especially these guys. When they're on the street, they did have money. They might have a long time and they want to continue to have money, or they know this is an avenue where they can keep their money going. Their their coffers were sacked by lawsuits, and they had to sell their many cars and gold chains and whatnot. So this is the way they have to keep paying the bills. They got to keep their people out there good. So and that's another thing. Their family does get caught up in it as well. That's one of the big problems. Is basically people looking over the problems of their loved ones. When somebody has a mental illness and it's maybe undiagnosed, and maybe it's made up, maybe the person's just lazy or they want attention, any of those sort of things. But to basically try to doctor yourself with drugs isn't the answer. It might help, it might be fun, at the end of the day, or if you like to smoke weed during the day and work, if you're productive like myself, go right ahead. But the main reason to do this, I'll get back to that, is to lessen the sentences of these guys, to decriminalize the possession, so it doesn't add. Basically, so if you're so you're caught with the weed, or you're caught smoking the weed, in prison. Basically, you'll get a DR, possession of a controlled substance or marijuana or whatever it is. You'll be rolled up. You'll go to confinement. You'll be there for however long, 30 days, 45 days. I know, I think I've heard like cell phones could be like up to 6 months. You lose all your privileges, like the comment was saying. You can't call your relatives on what they call the cell phone. Basically a pay phone that they can roll around to the different cells, and people can call their people on certain days, which is, it's nice that they're able to do that, honestly. But it really is a good idea, and it goes along with the Prison Reform Act that was just passed. One of the main problems is the prison guards, but it's like the opportunity is there for people, and when it comes down to it, everybody's corrupt in a little way nowadays. Not everybody. It's not an absolute. Not all, but most. And they kind of propagate the prison economy. Just the illegal side, not even just this. Just the marijuana, but the cell phones. There's all kinds of little contraband there. It's not mostly from the guards, but the drugs definitely. Visitation as well. You do get searched when when you're leaving the visitation. Obviously, the people when they're coming in, and I think when they're coming in and leaving, they get searched. You get watched. Video camera, all that good stuff. There's stuff that comes in and out from work camps, like workers that leave the compound during the day and they go out and work. They bring stuff in, they do use the prison wallet, the old and the guards, they try to get things to wiggle out and enforce something, but it doesn't work. Especially, like I said, the prison economy. Even tobacco, it's a commodity. It's a black market commodity. And it's very, very valuable. When the market makes the economy. If something's not there, a single cigarette was $5. So the potential to get in trouble, it's not, you're not going to get charged with possession, right? So getting it in is the hassle. And nowadays with drones and everything like that, people, I mean, getting a $200 drone offline, some people don't care to lose $200. They'll fly a, you know, $50,000 worth of drugs into a compound in a certain place, you know, just drop it off just so it doesn't trip any of the security measures of people getting released or people escaping. You know, it's so easy to circumvent all their little catches with technology nowadays, anyways. Because prisons were built to, well, they were built to reform. Now they're just to contain. There's no reform going on in there. Anyways, this is a new channel. Actually, not new channels. Back from 2007. Gonna go ahead and bring it back to life. If you like it, please like, share, and subscribe.